Well, our next guest co-sponsored that bipartisan bill, has been pushing it for 5 years, Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. Boy, is it relevant now. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. The question is, would leaders give up the leverage that they get from spending deadlines and shutdowns to forever end the possibility of a shutdown?
We do need to take the shutdown issue off the table entirely. At the end of the day, this is not good for the United States of America as a world leader. It doesn't typically solve the problem at any point. In fact, I don't know of a shutdown that solved the issue on it. We do need to have hard, grown-up conversations about debt and deficit, but during a shutdown is the wrong time to do it. And quite frankly, the way the bill is shaped, the leaders still have leverage. The way that we shaped the bill, this is Senator Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire. She and I wrote this together 5 years ago, that members of Congress and our staff, we stay in session 7 days a week, can only work on appropriation bills. It forces Congress to be able to do its job, but it holds federal workers and their families and the American people harmless in the process while we work through the issues that we've got to get done.
Senator Schumer's and McConnell are working towards a short-term agreement in the Senate to basically force this on the House if they can't figure it out. And according to Politico, it'd be about 4 to 6 weeks of funding with minimal Ukraine funding. Would you get behind that? Would you support it?
Yeah, as with everything, we got to be able to see the details on it. We do need to be able to keep the government open and operating while we get a chance to be able to talk through the hard issues that we've got to be able to resolve. So we'll see what they actually come together. They're going to file that, we understand, later on today, and all of us will get a chance to be able to read it.
But on its face, it sounds reasonable?
On its face, it's reasonable. We do have to be able to keep basic government operations going.
When it comes to Ukraine funding, I thought that this was notable from John Kirby at the White House. Here's what he said. Listen.
Without the supplemental request that we asked for, it will absolutely have an effect on our ability to support Ukraine well into the fall and into the winter months.
I wonder if you have a message to some of your fellow Republicans who not only are pushing to exclude more Ukraine funding from a continuing resolution, but from the budget entirely.
Yeah, so a lot of folks are saying, hey, we've got to take care of our problems here in America, so we can't take care of Ukraine. We have to be able to do both. We are the United States of America. Now, this is not an endless war that can just go on forever, but we cannot allow the thug, Putin, to be able to go next door and slaughter his neighbors. That cannot be allowed. That's why Japan and South Korea, Europe, the United States, so many others, even countries in Africa, have chipped in to be able to help Ukraine. That's why there's a lot of oversight that's actually happening on those weapon systems. But it is a bad thing for the world for Putin to be able to go slaughter his neighbors and the world just to be able to turn away from that. That will be a signal to Iran. That will be a signal to North Korea and to China and so many others. So we need to stay engaged, and we need to allow Ukraine to be able to win this war.
Senator, you make a good point that there are a number of Americans who say, what about us at home? And I just want to point to one thing in your state, right? Oklahoma City is home to the FAA's training academy for air traffic controllers. Critically important position. We remember the shutdown end of 2018 into 2019. They had to cancel contracts, cancel training for those folks. Talk about what the impact would be at home in your state that would actually affect all Americans.
Yeah, a lot of folks say that shutdowns are just a slowdown of government. It doesn't really affect people. It absolutely does affect us, not only on the international stage, but all the contractors are not paid. They're actually cut out and then they're not paid. So areas like you mentioned, the air traffic control training, that's a lot of contractors that actually do that. They're put out, they're not paid at all. If it's there long enough, they literally have to restart the program as they did last time. That puts us behind in air traffic control where we've already got to slow down. That's true on our southern border right now as well. The Border Patrol and CBP are dependent on contractors working with them to be able to help facilitate all the transportation, everything else that's going on. If those contractors go away, a really horrible, chaotic situation at the border gets even worse when those folks have, at that time, no pay and also no help.
Right. Let's talk about the border. You've been almost a dozen times as a ranking member of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Border Management. There was a congressional report in 2019, and it looked at what that shutdown meant for the border. And yes, although Border Patrol agents continued to work, they didn't get paid. There was a delay in maintenance, a delay in repairs. And it, quote, according to this congressional report, had a serious impact on how law enforcement officers operate and their safety, including those responsible for border security. Do you have a message for Republican hardliners that care a lot about the border? A lot of people do, but who are standing against a deal here given what this shows us happened last time at the border?
Yeah, my biggest message is let's have the argument about debt and deficit. They're not wrong on those issues, but to be able to say to a chaotic border, it's going to get even worse while we're trying to be able to negotiate what's happening on debt and deficit is the wrong method to be able to do it. Not only those members of law enforcement down there now suddenly are not paid, it's already incredibly difficult on them day to day and what they're actually facing. But then also to have no pay during that time period is really difficult, and to lose access to all those contractors. We have got to, as Congress, focus on redefining and clarifying what the word asylum means so we don't have 10,000 people a day crossing our border being waved into, that we have no background checks, no information on, no details. We can't have that as a country. That's a national security problem, but we also can't make it worse in the process.
And 2.6 million of those asylum claims backed up in the immigration courts right now. Before we go, obviously you're on the Ethics Committee.
Up to 10 years waiting.
I know. Rosa Flores was just reporting that to us this morning. It's pretty stunning. Senator Bob Menendez, defiant after this indictment on multiple bribery counts. I want you to listen to some of his response yesterday. Here it is.
For 30 years, I have withdrawn thousands of dollars in cash from my personal savings account, which I have kept for emergencies and because of the history of my family facing confiscation in Cuba. Now, this may seem old-fashioned, but these were monies drawn from my personal savings account based on the income that I have lawfully derived over those 30 years.
He believes he will be exonerated. He believes he will stay the senior senator from New Jersey. You're on the Ethics Committee. Will you guys investigate this?
So I can't talk about anything on ethics. That has been a standard rule that all of us that are on ethics, myself and Chris Coons that lead that committee, we never talk about anything.
So let me
as
ask
far
you
as
if
the
you
process
think
of ethics.
if
I
you
would tell you
think something like this would be worthy of investigation then.
Certainly it would be. There when individuals from outside or people inside actually make accusations or that they file a request to be able to inspect that, the Ethics Committee always follows up on those things. It is a unique challenge to be able to walk through the process where we have to be able to do it in silence. Obviously, the Department of Justice, they have continued to be able to do their investigation. That investigation will move on the criminal side. It is difficult to be able to think through a member of the United States Senate that says they don't trust their own government and the operation of their government enough that they would have to be able to maintain that much cash at home. That is a challenging, obviously, issue to be able to try to explain. We in the Ethics Committee will work through it as we always do, and the Department of Justice will do their work as well.
Senator James Lankford, it's nice to have you with us this morning. Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
Thanks. Phil.